Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Tech Data Engineer. So today we will see what is data mesh and why this is getting implemented in industry instead of what we have data lake, data warehouses, but why data mesh came into picture. Okay, we will see in this video. So data mesh is nothing but it's a way of storing the data domain wise. Okay, in simple layman term, if we understand, data mesh is nothing but storing the data in a domain specific way. Okay, so data mesh is nothing but it's a decentralized approach. Okay, there are two approach, one is centralized, one is decentralized. So data mesh is nothing but it's a decentralized approach. Vice versa, if we have data warehouse, it's a centralized way, okay, for storing the data. Okay, so if we'll talk about the data mesh, it's a data mesh nothing but it's a decentralized approach to data architecture and organizational design that emphasize on storing the data based on domain specific team. Okay, so suppose there is a company in which there are sales team, so sales team have sales domain, and sales domain, whatever the sales domain data they have the sales team which is the ownership of that data. Okay, so for storing the data and using the data, all have the ownership of sales team. Similar we have HR team, similar we have you can say IT team. So different team have different way of storing the data. So different domain of storing the data. So we have multiple domain: HR, sales, finance, IT, and each team have their own ownership. So that way, if you'll store the data, so that is called data mesh basically. Okay, so it challenged the traditional centralized paradigm. So as we know, data mesh is a decentralized approach. So what was the data warehouses? So data warehouse basically nothing but we are storing all type of data, and whatever the team, suppose if we have finance team, we have IT team, if sales team, so there is a centralized system. From that, if whatever the domain related data they want, they can fetch from a centralized system. But in case of data mesh, it was a decentralized system, and ownership is onto the that particular domain one. Okay, so suppose there is a HR related data, so ownership is to the HR team. Okay, so whatever type of data they wanted to store, they can store, and they have ownership on that data also, from retrieving to storing. Okay, so it challenged the traditional centralized paradigm of data lake and data warehouses by treating data as a product and advocating for decentralized responsibility for data management. So now these companies are implementing this way also, data mesh way, to store the data. So why? Because the goal is to improve scalability, reduce bottleneck, and enable better agile when dealing with the large system of data. So when there was a centralized system, so in case of centralized system, there was a suppose centralized system and that multiple team wanted to face the data. So there was a data latency. We need to bring the scale system for retrieving the data with real near real time. Okay, so because of this, all this region data mesh comes into picture. Okay, so why data mesh? So in many organizations, centralized data architecture like data lake or monolithical data warehouses faces such challenges as business grow. Okay, so scalability was one of the issue. When data lake and data warehouses grow as a business, so that was a scale was a one of the challenges. As data lakes data scales, so centralized teams often became bottleneck, struggling to keep up with the demand for data access, quality, and governance across multiple departments. Obviously it will happen, because suppose there is a centralized team and HR team, IT team, finance team, and whatever they wanted to access the data from single system. Okay, so obviously there was a data access issue, quality issue, governance issue. They are not able to implement the even data governance also on that domain specific data. Okay, so because of this region, data mesh comes into picture. Okay, so what was the challenges? So there are certain challenges with the centralized system, like bottleneck in the data pipeline development. So when all data needs are funneled through a central team, delay and inefficient energy. So obviously, if you have to you have to build the data pipeline, and the data pipeline will take some time to fetch the data from the centralized system and then get back to the domain specific team. Okay, then otherwise the scalability is good. So a single team or architecture may struggle to support the volume, variety and velocity of data. So data have volume, variety, velocity of data coming from the different part of organizations. Yeah, so if suppose IT team, finance team, or HR team, whatever, so if every team will send the same data at a time, so that time scalability was the issue. Okay, then other was the poor alignment with the business needs. So centralized teams may not fully understand the unique requirement of different business unit, leading to poor data quality and usability. So suppose if we have centralized system and HR team needs some specific data, okay, and that data is not there in the data warehouses, or data warehouse team have not stored such type of data which is needed for business requirement for sales team. So so that was the poor alignment with the business needs. So in case of data mesh, so if suppose sales team has the responsibility or ownership to store the data and retrieve the data, so they know what type of data they have to store. So they have their own ownership, they have the governance policy, they can use the data with real time, near real time also. Okay, so this poor alignment with the business needs, you can say that got you can say that issue got resolved in case of data mesh, and the scalability also got resolved, and bottleneck of data pipeline also got resolved in the case of decentralized system. Okay, so data mesh solve these challenges by ad- advocating for domain oriented ownership, self service data infrastructure and data as a product. So what they implemented data as a product. So for each data, suppose sales data, there is a product team, it's called product. So they are using sales data as a sales data product. Okay, so whenever they required or any team required the sales data, they have their ownership, so they can give any type of data whatever they need for the business specific. Okay, so it decentralized data management and ensure that each team responsible for a specific business domain owns and manage its data. Okay, so not only the manage data, but it manage the quality, governance and whatever the standard practice on that data. So each and everything they used to manage. Okay, so like then other was what was the core principle of data mesh. Okay, so data mesh is built on four fundamental principles. Okay, so for data mesh, what was the principle, so we will see also. So first one was domain oriented decentralized data ownership. Okay, so like data is owned and managed by team closest to the data source, typically business unit or product team. Okay, so what was the team which is near like closest to the data source, they typically used to manage. So that is basically the either business unit team or product team. So each domain team has full responsibility for data they generate, including the quality, transformation and access of that data. So why it matters? Because the principle remove the central bottleneck, but by empowering domain team with the responsibility and authority to manage their own data. Okay, so because of this this was the domain oriented decentralized data ownership principle comes a picture. Data as a product, so data should be treated like a product. So earlier data is it's like we are storing the data and all, but now in case of data mesh, data was a product, including product managers, user centric design and whatever the SLA agreement everything have. So they are treating data as a product. And third was the self serve data infrastructure. To enable the domain team to manage their own data products, the organization must provide a self service data platform with necessary tool for data ingestion, transformation, storage and access. So this was the third principle was self service data infrastructure. And then fourth was the federation computational governance. Okay, so while data ownership is decentralized, so there must be a set of shared governance policy, standard at protocol across the domain to ensure that data remains compliant. Okay, so in that case either secure or highly secure. Okay, so this is achieved through automation and federated governance tool. Okay, then apart from this business principle, we will see the how data mesh work and their architecture and component. So data mesh architecture consists of several components like domain data product. Okay, so each business domain owns data product like marketing, finance or sales. Each team they owns the data as a product. Okay, then data infrastructure platform, so obviously they use the data ingestion tool, ETL or ELT pipeline, data storage system, data catalog, metadata to storing the data, and analytical tool whatever they want for doing some analytics they use that. Okay, then third was the federated governance layer. Okay, obviously there should be some terms and standard protocol for governance policy. Okay, like data quality check, data lineage check, security and access point protocol, the inter-domain data discovery sharing. Okay, so like to enable the interoperability, data product must be discovered across the organization including data catalog. Okay, okay, so this was the they have this was as a architecture or component for data mesh. So first was the domain as a data product, data infrastructure, then federated governance policy, and fourth was the inter-domain data discovery and sharing. Okay, so what was the benefit of data mesh? So one was the scalability. So because of data mesh, scalability was not the issue. Agility, so domain team can move faster, develop and iterate their own data. So agile is also there. Data demacrotization. Okay, so data demacrotizations became more accessible and user friendly with the domain team empowered to manage their own data as a product. Then improve data quality. Yeah, obviously, so if the data they are using as a product, so with the defined SLA and product management principle, improve the overall data quality. Then flexibility. Okay, so data mesh is technology which can work a variety of tools, so flexibility was also there. So there was certain challenges with the data we can understand from this text also, like cultural shift, consistency and standardizations, complexity and implementation. So these are the self-explained things, so we can read and we can see that. Okay, so these are the challenges with the data mesh. So and the next point was when to consider the data mesh. So suppose team have like what type of, in what scenario they have to implement the data lake or data mesh or data warehouses. So if organization that are large and complex, so big organization where scalability was the issue, they wanted to work on the real time data, they have real time implementation system which will give the real time review, and also for that they consider as a data mesh. So facing scalability issue, looking for empower the team, so which have the data mesh work for the environment specific things. Okay, so that's so there only we require the data mesh. We can understand this by a flow diagram also, data mesh flow diagram. So suppose if you have decided to implement a data mesh. Okay, so if you implemented data mesh, so yeah, so gather your data, gather your team. So are you familiar with the data mesh principle? If no, then what you have to do? Do you have a clean data strategy? If you have clear data strategy or data principle, you can proceed. If you don't have, if you have, then identity the domain. So if you have already the principle, then what you have to do? You have to identify the domain, which domain you have to store. If you have domain, then yes, again you have to go and you have to time to plan the architecture. Then you have to plan the architecture. If you don't have the data, what we have to do? We have to define the data product. So you can go through this flow diagram also. So this flow diagram is self-explanatory. So what are the steps we have to follow while creating the data mesh? Okay, thank you, thanks for watching.